Welcome back to All Things Acura. I am Matt.
And I'm Justin.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Appreciate everyone who's been listening in, and really what we are going to try to complete today.
Yeah, we're gonna get it done. It's happening. It's happening now.
It's happening, whether everyone likes it or not here at the dealership. But we want to get out this Integra news to you guys. That's something that we've been trying to get out to everyone. Obviously, lots to talk about the Integra, and it's actually probably not a bad thing that we're doing it now because we have a better picture now.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking, well, now that we've seen some of the other information out there, we probably have a better, well-rounded picture of what we think as far as the terms of the car. But we really want to get out information clearly on what we have that maybe some other people don't have or haven't shared. Yeah. I guess maybe that's it. I don't know that we have anything earth-shattering that some of the other places might not have, but we do have some stuff that we definitely don't see available, whether it be within the initial press release of the car or that's on Acura.com.
Right. And so really that's what this show is going to be all about. We're just going to focus on the Integra, as we know that's obviously news that people want to hear right now. It's something that it's right in front of us. Orders, we actually had a couple people order some.
Yeah, so that went live. That was Thursday.
That was
March 10th. Yeah, so that went live on Acura's site actually at like 1 o'clock. It wasn't even an all-day thing. I thought you would just wake up and you'd be able to get it taken.
Right.
But it wasn't the case. You had to wait till after you ate lunch, and then you could. Well, I guess that's not for everybody.
That's right.
Eastern time, we would have ate lunch and then sat down and ordered our Integra.
We always forget a lot of the stuff comes from like the California, main.
Right. So they were just wrapping up breakfast.
That's right. They were like, finish up breakfast. We're going to order our Integra. And the thing, or the order site is still live. So if you haven't already put your order in for an Integra, you can still do that. You just won't get the NFT, which we'll talk about.
Whoa.
So,
yeah. The NFT went back to the metaverse.
It did, yeah.
But yeah, so Integra, let's talk a little Integra for, I guess, if you're listening to the show, you probably already know that the Integra's back after many years of going into hibernation.
Yeah, what was the last year they actually made the Integra? I don't know.
Ooh, I knew some, we might think that and ask that, and I want to say it's 99. But maybe we should ask Mr. Google.
We should ask Mr. Well, that's really interesting because, did it go away? So they had the RSX. We had the RSX for a little while, which I guess kind of replaced the Integra to an extent.
Yeah, I mean, I think in Acura's mind that was the evolution of the car, right? They went away from the actual names of vehicles to the alphabet soup, which we live in today, and maybe the Integra's pointing back to actual names.
Right, that'll be interesting to see what happens, as now we have some, alphabets, and now we have a name. So, who knows what that's going to look like in the future. I know a lot of people like the names of cars and whatever.
Well, maybe when they were eating their soup, they find the letters finally lined up.
It lined up to say, maybe that was the inspiration for the Integra, with some alphabet soup. One quick thing, just we had one viewer comment that I kind of want to just bring up. It was from a gentleman, or I'm not sure, Judd. He said, "You guys are the best." We obviously know that already, but he said this podcast is very representative of how your dealership works. So this guy was actually here, and he basically, I believe, pure information, always accurate and beyond friendly atmosphere. That's why I made my deposit and reservation for the new Integra from us. So it looks like he's ordered a spec with tech package. And he's asking about the NFT. I don't know if he's going to get the NFT or not. I wasn't here for that, but it's nice to see that someone ordered from us. We definitely appreciate that. And
thanks for the kind words. And I think you were right in there, so to be able to get the NFT. Hopefully, timing wise, everything that worked out. I guess we could touch on that NFT. For those of you who didn't know, that the first 500 orders that got on Acura.com and reserved theirs, I guess you'd say reserved your car. Received an Integra, or the first ever of a kind Acura NFT, which is really neat that they're trying to go out into the metaverse and the NFT world. The Acura one is kind of a unique NFT in the fact that I guess it starts out as a regular Integra, and then it changes when you take delivery of your car to your ordered car, I think.
And we don't know yet, but it could be, I'm assuming, the color of the car, the package, things
Right.
like that. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, 500 of them, I had a feeling those were going to go almost instantly. There's been a lot of hype around this car, whether you love it or hate it. I know that kind of leads us into, I guess, what we're going to talk about next is, our initial thoughts on the car. And, it's funny after a couple days, because again, we're recording this, a couple days after the car is kind of released, and we've had a chance to kind of read some of the information. We've had a chance to watch some videos about the car, different people's takes on the car. So I think what's interesting is like what my perspective is now on the car. And Justin, what did you think about the car?
Well, my initial thoughts, and this, we had talked about this the other day, but my initial thought was, wow, I like it better than I like the prototype. And maybe it was the yellow. I'm not opposed to yellow, but maybe it just didn't do the body lines good on the car. It's probably one of the first cars that I ever seen a prototype and then seen the regular car and actually liked it better than the prototype. Yeah. That never happens. Like, you always see the prototype, whether it be at an auto show or in a magazine or online, and you go, oh my gosh, what a great looking car. And then the real version of that comes out, and it's like you just pop the balloon and it just deflates. You're like, oh, well, that's not what it looked like. Right. This was the opposite. I think it looked better than what it did in the prototype.
Yeah, some of the colors obviously make a huge difference. I know we were just watching one a minute ago that really liked the blue, and the liquid carbon on this car, it makes the car look really classy. I was really kind of, not that I didn't think that was going to be the case, but like you said, that yellow didn't do it justice. And I think seeing some of the pictures that we've seen and things like that, it's made a huge difference in my perspective in terms of how I think the car looks. So those are some of my first thoughts. I think the car looks really good. I think it's an exciting time for Acura. So, we'll see how that goes.
We'll talk, I guess we'll since the elephant's in the room, we'll talk about it. I saw one of the headlines, Matt, was that it was a Civic in a tux.
Oh, that's not a bad thing.
I don't know that that's a bad thing. So, as you guys maybe know, gals, listeners, viewers, as you may or may not know, which you probably do if you're listening to an Integra, us talk about an Integra, right, is that it's based off the Civic, right? It's this, you can't say sister, maybe big brother. I don't know.
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. Off that platform, it's this, derived off that car. And I think a lot of people have pushed back and said, well, it's just a Civic. Why not buy a Civic? There's a lot of cars like that, Matt. There's a ton of cars that are like that, based off of another platform. And it doesn't mean it doesn't have its place in the world.
Right.
And the part I think that almost floors us a little bit is the Civic gets incredible reviews.
Right.
So why not have a nicer version of it?
Boy, I talk about this all the time, and I read reviews how great the Civic is, which I like the Civic. I think the Civic is a great car. There's nothing wrong with the Civic. Like, it gets incredible reviews. People love it. The tech, so great. And all of a sudden it becomes an Acura and everyone goes, I hate it. Or they can't stand the fact that it's just a dressed up Civic. Well, hey, it is what it is. We had an expectation that we thought that's what it's going to be. And I have no problem with that. I think just like the Civic is a great car, why can't that be a great car?
Right. If you take the ingredients that made it really good and make it a little bit nicer, it is that. It is good and even a little bit nicer, right?
Yeah, just like me on a daily basis. If you come see me on a daily basis, not that desirable. You put me in a tux, a little bit more desirable. So,
okay, well, I didn't think of it that way.
That's right. Well, right. Exactly. So, our thoughts in the Integra, we're excited to see it. I know you just placed.
Yeah, so it is the week after the initial offering when we're recording this, and we are right now in the orders for March orders for May production, and we already placed a couple Integra orders. And if you were one of those first people to reserve on the online tool for the Integra, those orders should have got put into your dealer that you selected for an option to order that car. So that's pretty cool. That it's a fast turnaround.
Yeah, and we don't know when it's going to come in necessarily yet. We haven't got that
so
info,
out of all the information we do have, and maybe that's something that we'll share with you later.
Yeah.
But what we do know is it's spring is all they keep saying, and based on what I just said, March or May production. Depending on where you live in the country, that car should get to you by May.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, it'll be exciting. And I know you had said that we might get a demo, which I didn't realize that we
Yeah,
had a
so they
demo.
actually just sent that out today to all the dealers, offering their one demo unit. And again, we've talked about this with other cars in the past, but they give us one car that is specific for us in our inventory that we can't sell for a certain amount of time. And I believe this one's 60 days. And that's so the people that have a chance to come out and see the car.
Right.
Because obviously there's going to be a little bit of popularity and demand, and we hope it's a great demand.
Right.
And if it was up to the dealers, they'd sell everything, and most people would never get to see the
Right.
car.
It'd be gone, and that's it. And especially right now, you have to have that one car and especially this car. Obviously, this is a brand new car for Acura. You know, it's not like, you know, obviously the MDX is a unique car, and we had the Type S demo. Obviously, that's a unique car, but there's still other MDXs you can at least see and feel. Whereas this is a whole new ball game.
Yeah,
so.
this is, and to be clear, it's a replacement to the ILX, so to speak. And I don't know why Acura doesn't like to say that, because they're not making a new ILX, right? It is a completely different car. So I think that's where they come from on that. And so you can't just drive one of those cars and say, well, it's kind of like this, but it looks different, right?
Yeah, it's a whole new. I think Acura's just trying to like distance themselves a little bit from the ILX in a sense. You know, obviously sales weren't always there, and it looks to be that this car is gonna make up a chunk of sales for Acura. You know, we're excited about that. I think, and especially right now with gas prices where they're at, I think this car, it might be the right car that Acura came out with at the right time. You know, I know it's an electric car, but there's still not a lot of people who have adopted that yet.
Right.
And I think
this is a good transition with economy, with fuel economy, and having something that looks good, sporty, you know, a little bit practical with that hatch, you know, 5-door with being a hatch. And still having power and fun to drive. I mean, it really hits a lot of good notes.
Right, absolutely. And I know we're all excited to drive. And I think you said our demo is going to be a manual. So we'll talk about that in a second too. But I think the other thing I wanted to kind of talk about was the launch option colors. I know if you've already gone to the website, you've probably have already seen some of those launch option colors. So I think they're only allowing us to order those colors still, right? I don't think that has changed at the moment. So this one right here just talks about the different packages that are available and
those were the initial launch packages. So there were only 2 packages available on the initial launch, and that was the A-Spec regular trim and the A-Spec with the technology package. Those were the only 2 packages. So if you go on Acura.com today, I believe that's all you can see, and I think we just looked that back up, are those 2 packages.
Manual or automatic.
Or automatic. And we'll talk a little bit more about the manual here in a minute. But there were only 4 colors available that you could work with inside that. That was the white, platinum white with the red interior, the blue with the orchid, liquid carbon with the red, and black with black. Yeah,
and I know we talked about the orchid. I think I'm excited to see that. It's going to be nice, and maybe they'll, we talked about. It's funny, we're kind of talking about the same stuff we tried to record before, but maybe the orchid will be a replacement for the parchment in the future. So we'll see how that looks. It'll be exciting. But some of the other colors are going to be available after launch.
So we do have the colors that are going to be available, and obviously those 4 are not your only choices. So as we run down through that list, we can kind of share that with everybody so you have an idea. So pay attention if you're curious and you weren't able to, or maybe you didn't want to pick one of those colors in that initial offering. Here's what will be available. And I don't know when we'll be able to actually order these, but I'm suspecting it'll be pretty quick. I don't think they'll keep these shut down for long. In the white, you'll be able to get the ebony interior, the red, and the orchid in the A-Spec packages. And then on the regular Integra, you can go with the ebony interior or the gray stone with the white. They will have a silver, and whether you get the A-Spec or the regular interior or regular Integra, you get the ebony interior. The great liquid carbon, which we talked about, looks fantastic on all the cars. Is available with ebony interior on the regular Integra, and then ebony on an A-Spec, or ebony or red with the liquid carbon.
Yep.
And then the black with the ebony interior, and then on a regular Integra they have gray stone, which is interesting. We talked about this before, Matt, that they're using the gray stone.
Forgot about that.
They've kind of are drifting away from the parchment interior, which has been around with Acura forever. probably time for a change.
Yeah.
Graystone's a sharp looking color. So black you can get with black interior or graystone in the regular, and then when you move to that A-Spec package, you can get the black interior or the red. They're going to have the Apex Blue Pearl, which that is only an A-Spec color, but that'll be available with either the black interior or the Orchid. No more red with the blue.
Oh, the red with blue, the Superman edition.
Superman edition is out.
Which we have right behind us here.
Yeah. So if you're watching us on the tube, you can see the Apex Blue Pearl A-Spec MDX. Actually, that has the red interior.
It has the red interior. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then the last color is the Performance Red Pearl, which actually will be available on both the regular Integra and the A-Spec, and it will come with the ebony interior or the Orchid on the A-Spec trim, which is a nice gal look.
Yeah, on the A-Spec, I think that'll look nice.
With the Orchid will be a great combination. So there are more colors available. Keep that in your back pocket. If you do not want to get on the reserve tool, get with your local dealer and get your name on one of those, because as soon as they're able to order one of those, I'm sure they will do that.
Right. That's a great point, because obviously I think some people, they maybe still want to go onto the website and say, why can't I, after maybe hearing this, or maybe they know somewhere that they can order different colors. Just let your local dealer know, hey, this is what I want to order, because we don't know yet when we're going to be able to order those. But as soon as we have that opportunity, anyone on a list that we create here, we try to order it for the.
So what's interesting is they do actually have those colors available in the system right now, but I don't know that they will allow us to select those color options. But they're in there. We know about them, and they are going to be available.
Yeah, absolutely. So. The other things that we know about the car, obviously, I don't think we have an exact price for what the car is going to be. I don't think it showed on the tool, but we do know.
They don't release pricing really until that car is on its way to the dealerships. That's Acura's been Acura's.
Yeah, they're
kind of the way of their MO for a long time.
Yeah.
So we don't know what the exact numbers will be like. Acura says starting around $30,000. I expect the regular trim level of the Integra to come in probably that 31, Matt. As an estimate.
And there's somewhere somewhere like you said and then it goes up to on the Tech A-Spec, so maybe mid-30s.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with the trim, they have the regular Integra trim package, and we'll talk a little bit what comes in that package. They have an A-Spec, which is primarily an appearance package, as it is with most of the other Acura models. And then they have the A-Spec with the technology package. So really only 3 trim packages. And then in that top package, you do have a choice of that transmission, and we'll talk about that in a minute as well.
Yeah. So that's kind of where the car starts. And we, Acura tries to give us a little bit of information, obviously, to help us out. So, but yeah, I don't know if
they do expect that, the A-Spec or that A-Spec with the technology package, which would be the top trim in the Integra model, to top out in the mid-30s, they say. What's that mean? If I'm translating Acura speak, probably somewhere in the $36,000-ish, $37,000 range. I mean, I think you can still be under 37 and still say mid.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. Yeah,
I don't know.
It'll probably be 36 something, and then if you get the upcharge paint colors, would probably top out like at 36.9 or something like that. Again, these are speculations. We're just guessing based upon what we're seeing. It could come in at 39 for all we know. We don't know. So
interesting chart they sent us on the production levels. So overall volume and how it can be fall in those trims. Really surprised to see that A-Spec will take up a majority of almost all the production. The regular Integra, only 10% of the production. In other words, they really expect the A-Spec, which I guess in most of the models is really popular. But
right. It is interesting. 10% is pretty low. And actually, the more I thought about that, the more I was like, man, that's, just putting in layman's terms, that's 1 out of every 10. Or 10 of every, I know these are just percentages, but still, it's like, you would think about that, like, man, it makes you wonder how many people may just don't want the A-Spec package. We have a lot of people who don't want the black trim accents as much as I love it, or as much as the next person loves it. There's a lot of people a lot of our constituents and clients who they don't want the black accents.
So I think this chart that's showing us this is their initial thoughts on how they're going to roll out the car in a volume. And so I think initially what we're going to see is they're going to focus on a few different trim packages, keep the what available options to a minimum to be able to build a volume of them. If they know that they're going to build XYZ model and have so many of those, they can really work with the suppliers and plan out a little bit farther. That doesn't mean that these numbers couldn't change on the road, like you said, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
I think that the regular Integra numbers would go higher over time. I think this is initially what we're going to see. So only 10% in the regular model, and then 36% in the regular A-Spec. Again, the entry-level equipment, just adding the appearance package. And then almost 40% with the A-Spec technology. So the top trim is going to be a big chunk of what they expect people to want. And then, shockingly, back to the feature that everybody was happy it has, is the manual transmission will be available only with that A-Spec technology package, at least right now, initially.
Right.
And that will represent the other 15%, which is a big number, but I know a lot of people like that manual transmission.
Right, and that's and like you said, that's a great point. Like, this is the initial rollout, so obviously as time goes on after that first year, I'm guessing the manuals are slowly start to
the manuals will be really high at the beginning. People that have been waiting for a manual transmission car from Honda or Acura, right, for that matter, and then people just out there in the industry, and then as that starts to die off, those people that got to have that, then the regular packages will probably pick up more of that.
It also makes you wonder when the last manual may be sold ever, across a lot of brands and lineups. So
I did see a great article, and I was going to bring it up in our conversation here with the Integra, was the cars that are still offered with a manual, because it's a short list now.
Right.
It is. There aren't many cars left that offer a manual. It's really interesting that Acura actually came back with a car and said, "Hey, we're going to offer a manual now. We haven't since 2014, but we're going to now." Right.
Yeah, I think it's great to see, and obviously, we're excited to drive the manual. I drive a manual myself, so it's kind of, it's fun to have that back, and it's a great engaging driving experience. So, and Honda makes it such a great manual. Honda and Acura, that's
and I think that's probably, if you're looking at it from an industry standpoint, it's probably one of the best.
Yes.
I'd argue, sure, you can get outside of its class and get into some, Porsche or some other cars out there. But I would argue in, anything under, 50, 60, 70,000, it is really hard to find a manual transmission that drives better than what the Honda manual.
Honda, it's so easy to drive their manuals. It's almost like you're not even driving a manual. Like the ones I've driven, it's crazy. So, and they made the ILX in a manual, like the first 2 years, I think, of it with the 2.4. So it's interesting that they brought it back, and it's good to see. Obviously, it's great for the enthusiast out there. So hopefully we'll keep that going over time. But yeah.
So let's tell them a little bit about the car.
Yeah. So obviously we got this kind of a nice little. I assume we can talk about this, right? This isn't on lockdown, is it?
No, I think this is all the stuff they shared right when the car came
great.
out, right?
Yeah, so there's some, they give us this long press release about the vehicle. It kind of goes into a lot of detail about the car. Obviously, I just want to highlight a few things. Well, I did highlight a few things. The first thing being that it does have, what's in the Civic, the 1.5 liter turbo, the 200 horsepower engine. Obviously, it has that CVT. I know a lot of people were a little bit upset about that, but I think Honda makes a great CVT, and I think it's the right choice for the transmission of this car to keep that cost low on the vehicle. And at the end of the day, I mean, the car's gonna be fun to drive. So.
Yeah, I think they're going to really, it's going to have the different driving modes like the other Acuras do, and it's going to really enable you to tailor that car a lot. And I'm CVTs have come a long ways, and I know Honda's is better than most. I don't know that people are going to be super disappointed. We just had one of our other sales consultants here that's had Hondas for years, dreaded the idea of the CVT, and now if you heard him talk about it today, Matt. Oh my gosh, he raves about it.
Right.
Like he went from hating it to loving it.
Right. And I have a feeling we're going to get some flack on that. Like, oh, we're Acura people. And I get it. Like, some CVTs do feel numb. Now, if you're talking about a Nissan CVT, those are the worst. There are some other brands that make a much better job of the CVTs, including Honda. Honda, obviously we don't know. I'm assuming they're using the same CVT Honda is using. So yeah, I think it's going to drive great. I don't think it's going to be, at the end of the day, it's going to be a problem.
And that 6-speed transmissions, we talked about it a little bit there, but it will come with a limited slip differential, which we thought was really interesting because we were saying that most people probably don't even know what that means. But if you're into performance, it adds a level of performance that you just don't get on really many cars.
Right. And I don't know how many cars have that. I think that's something that when people, when you're going down through the list of like the window sticker of a car, people read these line by line items and like that, it doesn't have much meaning. But I think there's probably not very many cars out there that have a limited slip differential in this class. And basically what that does is it just helps maximize the traction of the vehicle. And so that's going to help the car a lot in terms of, its driving characteristics.
Yeah, it's, it just like when we talked about, we wish it had all-wheel drive, the limited slip helps give it that extra level of performance that you're just not going to get on a lot of cars, of that caliber.
Right, exactly. And the other thing, and it's funny as I highlighted a lot here, and it has a short throw, close ratio 6-speed. So it's a short throw, which is interesting, and then it also has the automatic rev matching for the ultimate in precision driving. So
yeah, and we were talking about that before when Matt said rev matching, and I said rev matching. That sounds like it's familiar because we have it on the TLX Type S with the 10-speed automatic, and it makes sense in an automatic to me. I was a little, I wouldn't say confused, but I was like, how's that? I can't put it together in my head how that works. Right. But I guess a lot of manuals now, if they offer a car with manual, they do have rev matching.
Yeah, my car I drive, and for full disclosure, I drive a Subaru WRX, which is a manual transmission. Mine does not have automatic rev matching. I have to do the rev matching. The heel toe stuff, and people who do drive manuals out there, they know kind of what that means. So it'll be interesting to see how that. I told Justin, we'll have to test that theory, or we'll have to test how that works.
So in a nutshell, it's going to make that 6-speed that was already a great transmission, even better.
Right. I think so too.
Rev matching, limited slip differential. Right. I mean,
I think it's funny because the more I think about this, I'm like, this might be, if someone's in the market for this kind of car, and maybe you haven't had it like an opportunity, maybe the car you've been looking at just was never really offered in a manual, right? This might be a good opportunity to try to get a manual for the first time, because I think it's going to be an easy manual to drive. And I think it's going to be it's going to be fun. So I don't know. I'm excited to drive how that's going to feel. And obviously that's made it to the 1.5, which I already kind of mentioned, the turbocharged 1.5 liter, and it creates 200 horsepower and 192 pound-foot of torque, and that comes on at 1,800 RPMs.
That's an improvement over what you get in a regular Civic, correct?
Yes.
You have to move up in the Civic lineup to even get a performance.
Essentially, it's like the Civic Si, right? In that regard. So, and that's a pretty fun car to drive. So that's why I don't think this is going to be a problem in terms of horsepower. Now, the horsepower, it's basically pretty similar to what you can find out there. They do compare this car to like the Audi A3, which has 201 horsepower. So it's not like this car's really lacking that much in horsepower. I don't think. I think it's about the right. In fact, the ILX has 201 horsepower. So,
Yeah, and I think what we found even with when you had the TLX, and I remember the TLX with the 2-liter with 200 horsepower, and it was a lot of people liked that car, and as much as it was a bigger car with that smaller engine, this should be more spirited to drive than what that car even was.
Right.
But again, hitting at the right notes. Go to the gas station. All of a sudden, the power. You'll appreciate that you have a car that is fun to drive and has plenty of power, but not too much.
Right, exactly, yeah. And that's where, we have these conversations all the time about like what's the right amount of horsepower in a car. Obviously, you could. I mean, horsepowers nowadays are so relative to like every single car in the past. Like you look at cars in the past and you're like, wow, this V8 produced 210 horsepower. Now you have a 4-cylinder turbo producing the same amount of horsepower. So it's interesting, and more torque probably too.
Yeah, and how people have adjusted that I have to have X amount, and it's the 19 whatever Corvette that only had 240 horsepower.
Oh yeah,
I mean
that
was enough back then.
Yeah,
and now it's not enough. Right. It is funny how that's changed.
Right.
And it's amazing when we see the comments and people talk about 0 to 60 times, and I reflect back, and I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole of age, but when I talk about that, I said, back in my early days, I actually worked at a Pontiac dealership, and I had at the time, because that's what you did back then.
Right.
I had a Trans Am Ram Air 6-speed, LS1 V8, Trans Am, and it had 300 horsepower, right? 310 horsepower, I think was the exact number on that car, which is which was a lot back then.
Yeah.
And that car 0 to 60 is not any faster than our TLX we have today.
Right.
And people come in and say, "Well, that's not enough."
You're like, "What?"
You're like, "What? What's not enough?" Right? And I understand. The bar has been raised.
It has been.
But there's still a lot of fun to be had even when the bar was.
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely, yeah. And obviously a TLX offers a much different driving experience than a Trans Am in terms of handling, responsiveness. But yeah, so I just kind of want to keep rattling off some of these features. This car comes pretty packed. Even at a base model, it comes pretty packed with some features. The one thing I didn't realize the car was going to have until I started reading this is that it sounds like the Acura Precision. So the 10.2-inch Acura Precision Concept, the digital display that we find, I'm assuming it's going to be similar to what's in the MDX.
Yeah, I think it's the same. Very similar display.
Or similar, yeah. It's standard. So I thought that was kind of nice to make that standard. I think that's something that they that a lot of people have asked for. They want a digital dash, and I think that looks really cool. And it keeps with the times. Obviously, this car's going to, the demographic on who buys it, it's probably going to be that younger professional kind of buyer. They're going to want some of those like nicer tech looking features.
Yeah, and I think it's probably a good time to mention the other standard equipment it has, because it does have a sunroof standard on every Acura across the lineup, and you get that whole host of Acura Watch safety features or drive assisted technology is standard across the board. So not just some of it. Now you get the blind spot information, the rear cross traffic, all the adaptive cruise control. Everything's included in that.
The Acura Watch Suite, which is now basically standard on all the cars except for the TLX, which is kind of funny. So the RDX 2022 and newer is going to have all those things standard. The MDX has all those things standard. The Integra will have that all standard. So that's, it's nice that they're keeping with the times. There's very few cars, a lot of times people are like, well, why don't they make this standard? I'm like, there's no other cars that make a lot of those safety systems standard.
Right. I know it's still an option on a lot of them.
Yeah, it's even optional on a lot of these like higher end cars, like these BMWs. And I see it all the time, like, wow, you had to pay.
Right. I think we just saw one the other day. We had a BMW. It started at $70,000, and then it had a package that was $1,600 for some of those assist pack. And I'm thinking, so you don't get that for the 70, right? I mean, you still have to pay get the extra stuff.
Yeah, and so Acura, obviously, the safety company that they are. Making those things standard is really nice. And I think they made some other nice changes too, since we're on the Acura Watch thing. It just says more natural feeling responses for functions such as adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist. So, over time they make updates to these things to make them just feel more natural, which I think that's something a lot of people would want out of like adaptive cruise, to make it feel more like, hey, you're actually slowing down. I think some systems, they slow you down hard. I think Acura's done a good job with that stuff over the years.
Yeah, I think they work really well, and in comparison to some of the other ones I've tried out there, they do a really nice job. So to make it even better, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, heated seats come standard across the lineup. Also, the Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is we kind of went to expect that. But they did make the wireless only part of the technology package. Yeah,
and I figured that would be the case, and that's okay. I think sometimes that's one of those things that people get caught up on. We talked about that.
Yeah, I like
the previous.
Yeah, I think we talked about that before. I like the fact that it's still there though. So if you want it, you got to plug your phone in. I get it, but it's there, right? The wireless is the upgrade, which is I really like that thinking of having access to those features, but making it even better if you go to the next package.
Yeah, exactly, and that's totally fine. Yeah, that's a great point. I never thought about it that way. It's like, a lot of times people want these features standard, but now that we're seeing these features kind of morph and change and say, well, you can have that feature but improved if you go to a higher package, and that's true of a lot of these things. That's interesting. Obviously, keyless access push button start, that stuff's all standard. And as we go to, obviously the digital cockpit is standard. And so the other thing is the main display, the one that's going to display, obviously, the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, the touch screen display.
So that's a good point, Matt. They went from getting rid of the touchpad on this car. And part of that, is because it's they're driving the car from one of their Honda car, the Civic, and it does not have the touchpad. So
correct.
And keep in mind, Acura's doing its best to keep the cost down on this car. They could have easily, filled it with tons of content and had it be a high 30s, low $40,000 car. And I think they're doing their best to use what parts were on the shelf to
absolutely. And I know some people, we have not talked about the touchpad or anything yet on that. You guys, I know we talk about it sometimes here, but not on like any sort of podcast or anything like that. So I have no problem with the touchpad, but I do know that's like
it's a love or hate it. I don't know
if
it's love or hate it. I think it's a you do get used to it,
right?
And I think our stance on it is we actually like the touchpad. Do we wish that some of them had a touchscreen too? Dear Acura,
just make the touchscreen with it. It's
just
okay.
Put the touchscand and the touchpad.
I do a really good job of explaining it, but even if I do, there's people that they use their phone every day. It's kind of what they've become accustomed to, and they're used to it. But I get it. But so it's funny because one of our fellow coworkers didn't realize that the new one wasn't going to have a touchpad, and I also have another feeling that they weren't going to use the touchpad because the manual, and if you have a touchpad there,
it's really hard to probably do both. It's hard to use the touchpad and the touch.
Yeah,
and the shift gear.
Right, it's just kind of in a weird spot where they have it. So anyway, hello.
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
So that manual touchscreen is probably a weird thing to do, right? So it probably makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense that they did that. So with a touchscreen, and that's okay. We're happy about it. I know maybe I already mentioned this. We had to work just for a minute here. So sorry if there's any things where we cross the wires on. That's part of it. We try to block out little bits of time for this, and it doesn't always.
And we just, no matter how much we have the on-air sign on, and we try to keep the door shut, they find their way in.
They're fine. They barge through the door with blocks. All right, so going back through the list of standard features, so the 8-speaker premium audio. So I think Acura's base now. If you got a base model ILX in the past, I think that thing had like 6 speakers, and then there's no subwoofer. Obviously, I'm assuming this is going to have a subwoofer. We're not exactly sure, but I'm sure that'll sound good. And then, like we said, the wired Apple CarPlay. Here's one thing that I thought was interesting. It shows that it'll have one USB Type A USB port standard. Now, what's interesting is if you go all the way up to and we'll talk more about the other packages in a minute. But if you go all the way up to the A-Spec Tech, you have 3 USB ports of the Type C and 1 Type A. So I'm assuming they mean 4.
Yeah, the technology package really adds a lot of extra technology going into
and it's interesting because I know that's something that like even the RTLX lacks is like, people, they look in the back seat and they look for those ports and they're not there. So I'm hoping for more of those in the future and I know this is a smaller car, so it may not matter that much.
But it does have you do get that ELS Studio Surround in the technology package.
You do, yeah, the 16 speakers, the 3D premium audio system. I'm sure that'll sound phenomenal in this.
Yeah, it's incredible in all the other vehicles, and you put it in just a little bit smaller of a cabin, it's going to be...
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And then other things that Acura's done great standard is, having the power seats. It says 8-way power seat for driver. And then, let's see, 4-way power passenger front seat. So it might have a manual front passenger seat?
Yeah, it looks like for all but that technology package is going to get a manual power passengers, or is that?
Yeah. Well,
you can't have a manual power anything.
That's right. It's powered by man.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right.
So anyway, so 4-way power. I'm a little surprised by that actually. So that'll be interesting. Again, I'm sure not all of this is for sure. There could be some things that I know that happens sometimes with car in, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, that's not how that is. So it'll have looks like the leatherette, or they're calling it synthetic leather trim seats, which I actually don't mind those at all. Those are fine. And then other standard features, anything else that's standard that I missed there? I think we talked about that. The 17-inch wheels are standard on the car. And that's pretty much it. I don't want to necessarily get into dimensions unless you want to talk about the dimensions at
No,
all.
I think, most people have a pretty good idea on the size of the car. The wheels, those 17-inch wheels, standard wheels, are just on the regular Integra. Most models, again, as we mentioned before, the percentages will be the A-Spec or above, which will come with an 18-inch wheel with a 235/40 tire.
And then just kind of talking about the other features that the car will have, obviously, as you go up to the A-Spec or A-Spec Tech package. I didn't know this at first. It says high-tech available features include a head-up display, which I'm assuming will be on the A-Spec Tech package.
Yeah, it seemed like all the other cars have taken years to all have a heads-up display on them now as available feature, and this one comes out and boom, there it is.
Right,
Heads-up
exactly,
display.
yeah. Right, that's right. I like the heads-up display. I know there's some people that won't buy a car without it. I can give or take it, but I think it is pretty cool. Let's see here. And then it'll have the integrated dynamic system. I think that was standard, they said, right? In the IDS system.
Yep.
Okay, so there's that. And then adaptive damper system. So I'm assuming that'll be on the A-Spec Tech package as well. That's pretty cool. That'll have the adaptive dampers.
That was kind of, there's a couple things that kind of threw me was that heads-up display, but that adaptive damper system. And for those of you that don't know what that we're talking about there, is it allows you, when you change those modes, individual modes, and they usually have like a sport, a comfort, a normal, drive mode. When you change those drive modes, it actually tightens up the suspension to give it a sportier ride or less sporty of a ride, depending on which one you want it.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of interesting. And again, it doesn't say necessarily, but I'm assuming that's going to be on the A-Spec Tech. And as I'm looking through these bullet points here, Alexa,
it is A-Spec Tech, yep.
Yeah. And so we'll kind of keep going through that. So obviously those things are standard. Let's find this. LED fog lights will be on the A-Spec in the Tech package. And then LED exterior puddle lamps will be on the A-Spec Tech package, which is pretty nice. Let's see here. And then the front and rear proximity sensors. Those are nice to have.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see that on the Integra as well.
Ilex has never had that. So.
Ilex has never had that, and that's where we start to see, like same with the heads-up display, start to see some of these features that would normally be only available on a car like a TLX or above MDX, start to trickle down. You get some of these creature comforts on a smaller car, and I think there's a lot more people out there looking for that than what we think. And I think Acura, that's where this car I think is going to really fit a really neat niche. Is it's filling, it's providing some of those nicer features for somebody that just doesn't need that larger size car. And we talked about that with the MDX for so long, that they need to make the RDX have some of those features because people just don't need the size. Bigger, just because they want the features doesn't mean they want to drive a bigger car.
Right, absolutely, yeah. It'll be interesting to see as this car comes out, like how many people may be willing to give up a bigger car for it, So that'll be interesting as time goes on. The other thing, so the A-Spec Tech also has the 9-inch touchscreen display that ups it from the 7-inch touchscreen display. I don't know if they're gonna look different. I know in the past, the Ilex had this itty bitty screen in a base model. So obviously it'll be a bigger screen, but whether or not the screen looks different, we don't know yet. But it'll be a bigger screen. Interior LED ambient lighting. I love that feature in the TLX. I think it looks really sharp at night. So that's a cool feature to have on that car. Alexa built in. We just talked about this briefly. We have not had a chance to use Alexa built in any of our cars. I don't really want to put my account on any of the cars that we are selling here, because who knows, maybe I can't take it off of there, but it is obviously a pretty cool feature if you can get that set up. Wireless charge pad is a part of the A-Spec technology package, and again, we talked a little bit about the USB ports. Looks like it's going to have 3 of those being the USB-Cs or the USB Type-Cs. Obviously heated seats. You have the 12-way power seats, the power seats for the passenger seat. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, so that makes sense there. For the power passenger seat.
Yep, you get it as you move up through the packages there. You get that power passenger seat on the technology package. The micro suede inserts obviously part of that A-Spec package, but it actually comes interesting. So the A-Spec interior is going to be a little different from the regular A-Spec. When you move to the technology package, it's going to have a little bit different seat. And then lastly,
did you see that?
Yeah, Acura Link only is available in the technology package.
I just now realized that.
These guys will shoot me if I talk about Acura Link anymore here.
Oh boy!
Because if you bought an Acura recently and you have Acura Link on it, it's free.
It is free. Acura Link is free.
You get a trial period of several of the packages, and then there's parts that are free for now.
Like a remote start. It's free.
So
it's great.
If you have a newer Acura that you bought and you didn't sign up for that, I'm not sure why.
I'm not sure.
Maybe we can blame it on us.
We don't know.
But it was interesting to only see that in that technology package.
Did you realize that was on it just now?
I didn't until I was really just looking at the list because I made a mark by it too, and I go, that's interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
So
I was hoping that was. Well,
I guess they were tired of trying to give people Acura Link for
maybe
free.
So
And people aren't taking it.
People aren't taking it. Taking the free version.
It's free.
I think that's free. I don't know if there's anything else other than just the design of the car. I know there's going to be some things that we'll put out a video. I'm sure when the car comes in about like the design. I'm curious to see how that frame. They have a new frameless version of the Acura's Diamond Pentagon grille. I think that looks really good. Just based upon some of the pictures I've seen, just not having that frame around it, I think it looks clean. So we're excited about that. So
yeah, some really other pretty cool accessory items too. And this is stuff that I know that's not going to probably be listed anywhere out there yet. Probably not on Acura.com yet. But these accessory items, which will be available, one they do show you a little sneak picture of, and that is that Acura logo in the front is going to have a feature where you can get a illuminated logo, and I don't know if they replaced that whole logo or just put the lights around it, but it is really a cool looking
it looks good.
And I know some of the other brands have already had that, so
yeah,
maybe we're bringing up the rear here, but it still looks good.
Yeah, and I'm surprised. I was hoping after seeing that, I'm like, well, maybe they'll figure out a way to do that on the MDX.
Yeah,
depending on how it's implemented. Whether it's like a replacement of. Maybe it's the whole grille they have to replace. We don't know.
Yeah, so part of the challenge with changing those emblems out, I know we've had people with the other models like those black emblems and want to change that, then they can't change that front one, is because all that safety equipment lives inside that emblem. And obviously, it's a radar unit. You'd be replacing that whole unit to change the color of the emblem. So it wasn't able to do that. But a couple other things. Obviously, they are offering some blacked out emblems. The only emblem really on the car, because it has that neat embossed Integra in the bumpers, is really the A-spec emblem, so you can black that out. Yeah. The rest of it, there are no other emblems other than that front one.
I think that's actually kind of cool that doesn't have a lot of the emblems. I think that's kind of neat, other than, like you said, the A-spec.
A in the front, and then there is A in the back that you could make black.
But why would you do that if you want to make it colored? How cool! Well, I guess the back one, but
the back one.
If you want to, I really am excited to see that illumination. I think a lot of people will like that. And I'm also. It looks like you can also get a heated steering wheel.
Yeah, so a heated steering wheel does not come in any of the packages, but it does come as an accessory across the lineup. I think from what we can see, which is pretty cool. Because I know that's become a popular item, and again. In the years past, you had to move to the top trim of something bigger to get any features like that. And now it's available on that. One of the other features I want to point out was they show a spoiler or a little lip spoiler on the back of that, and that is it shows it's carbon fiber. I don't know if it's real carbon fiber, but it's a carbon fiber look, and that is a dealer installed accessory item too. And maybe we should point this out now, Matt, because I know I think about it all the time, but I don't maybe say it out loud. Acura and Honda specifically have been this way for a long time, and they do offer a lot of features, such as the spoiler, the illuminated emblem, and heated steering wheel as dealer-installed options, meaning you can't go and build that car from the factory that way. Those options are only available through the dealer, which does a couple things. Yes, we do have to install those when they get here, but they allow you to kind of give and take as you like, for one. Yeah. And then two, help you hopefully find the car you want, because, in normal times when we have X amount of cars in the lot, if this one had a heated steering wheel and that one had the lighted emblem, it could take you a while to find the one you want, or you end up buying stuff you don't need.
Or you buy stuff you don't need, or you buy stuff that you wish you had. You bought a car. And there's a lot of brands that are kind of... you could accuse a lot of brands of doing that, having this kind of a la carte kind of mentality. And it's funny because we get a lot of those questions, and this might answer a bigger question for a lot of people. Every time we order a tech package or every time we order a spec, it comes as that package. We have people are like, well, I want to see that specific MS or that specific window sticker. I'm like, well, it's the same as all the other ones.
Yeah, and I think Acura does a really good job with that. And some people could say that's a detriment because, they might want, the heated seats or heated rear seats, and they want to buy that as a separate option.
Yeah.
The challenge with that is it creates a production nightmare, right?
Yeah,
to have these free flow options, and then also even down the road, thinking of yourself, if you're shopping for a pre-owned one of these, it's really kind of comforting to know that technology package is going to have the same as every other technology package that's out there.
Yeah.
It's not like looking for, I'll use the trucks for example, because I think the last count, and I know they keep chopping this by halves. The last count, you can make like 2.1 million versions of the Ford F-150, right? And I think they keep chopping that. Now they're chopping it to 1 million versions, but because it's so hard to find exactly what you want, or even within those combinations to build what you want. And so they do a nice job of making those packages, only having so many packages. The price stays consistent throughout those. I think it's really a smart way to do it.
And I think also it just helps keep that consistency in the production process, right? You have less things happening. You have less cars that are getting different features. You keep everything consistent, and you do a better job of making those products, right? And that's kind of I do respect that with Acura. So I do like that. Obviously, you can always dress up the car how you'd like to dress it up after the fact. That's something you've pretty much always been able to do. And then I think that's pretty much it on the car. I know the one thing we did want to bring up was just the fact that...
Oh, yeah. Big news with that. Gosh, we should have mentioned that a little earlier.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. I forgot about it. So a little surprise slide in our deck of slides that Acura shared with us. 2023 models, including the Integra.
Oh, you're going to throw it all out there.
If you caught that. Will come with 2 years or 24,000 miles of maintenance, Acura maintenance included, and that is the engine oil, filter change, tire rotation, and a multi-point inspection is going to be included with that 23 Integra. So pretty cool. I know we talked about this as well. A lot of the manufacturers did this. It's been several years ago, and I know some of them had stepped away from it and said, okay, we're not going to offer that anymore. And here's Acura saying, you know what? That wasn't a bad idea.
Right.
Maybe we're a little late to the party, but here you go.
Yeah, and I don't know, I know I'm sure some brands do, like 3 years. It's a nice gesture. That's something I think we've always felt. People do ask that question when they come in to buy a car. Well, do I get any maintenance for free? And I think Toyota had offered some stuff in the past.
And Toyota still might.
And they might. Okay, I don't know. And BMW, I think, did too, maybe on leases. And, obviously we're here at the Acura store, so we don't always know like what other brands are doing. None of the other brands we sell here do that. The Hondas or Subarus or Mazdas. So it is nice that they include that. It's just one of those nice gesture things that at the end of the day, people, they want to feel like I'm being taken care of a little bit.
Yeah, and hopefully, hopefully it sways your decision to bring the car back to the dealership to get some of that maintenance. And obviously, if it's free, I don't know why you wouldn't. But like Acura Link, a lot of people don't want to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So go back to whether it's free or not. But it's really important, especially in those first couple of years, that your car is looked at and checked out. From somebody that knows what they're talking about. And when it's new or a new model like this, there can be a lot of adjustments and program software changes, information that comes out, and it's probably really good that you bring it back to the dealership first couple of years and smooth it and iron everything out and make sure it's working the way it should be.
And plus it gives us a chance. I know that we have great people here. It gives you a chance that they ask those questions to your salesperson, because there's a lot of times people come in like 2 years later, they didn't realize their car can do a certain feature, or there are certain things that they didn't understand quite right. Then that's kind of what we're here for too, to help people out with that. So obviously we help we hope people come in and service with us. So that's the big thing there. I think that was I don't know if there's anything else, Justin. Did you have anything else?
We really rattled through a lot there on the Integra. Thanks for sticking with us. I know that was long, but we wanted to share with you everything we knew on the Integra.
Yep.
And if you're interested in one, hopefully that provided some information that you didn't already have. There's probably a little bit more in there that we could have talked about, but in the efforts of not making it any longer than we need to.
Not going to look at the time anymore.
But we did decide to make this separate, so we will still have our regular show that will cover the news and information going on with Acura, but we're going to throw this out there because it's Integra and it's new and it's exciting and there's a lot to swallow here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so any obviously viewer comments help us out, kind of help drive the show. But I think the next show we're going to talk a little bit about the chips more.
Yeah, we're going to dive in a little bit more on the chips. We've come to a realization that maybe we don't know what we don't know.
And that's right. And maybe I don't know what the chips are, and maybe you don't know what the chips are, and I don't think anyone knows what the chips are.
I don't think that. So, yeah. Well, thanks again. I appreciate everybody. Again, feedback, comments, subscribe. We really looking forward to hopefully answering any of the questions we can. I know one big question will be asked again is when's that Type S model coming?
Oh.
Try to maybe we'll just make that part of each show, right?
That's right. Yeah. We'll keep that in our back pocket.
We'll keep it
right
in our back
back
pocket.
here. You don't know about it, so
we don't know when the Type S is coming. We don't know. Again, nobody's confirmed anything with the Type S, but we are confident that someday that we will see one, and we hope to be that someday within maybe the next year or so.
We get our Acura Magic 8-Ball out, and it'll say all signs point to yes.
Right.
But we'll see. Yeah,
We'll
who
see.
knows? Thank you again for listening and watching. Stay safe out there, and thank you so much. Have a good night.
We'll talk to you soon.